What would you do if someone locked you in a room and tried to convince you that everything you believe in is a lie? Not with a weapon, not with violence, but just with words. And trust me, it is so much more unsettling than it sounds. Welcome back to Hex Real. I'm so glad you joined me today. I want to discuss a movie that really impacted me. I've seen it so many times since my first viewing. I have the poster right back here hanging up. That's how much I love this film, Heretic. Now, this movie, it is not flashy or overly obnoxious, not much gore, very little violence, but it is quietly terrifying. Heretic isn't about monsters or gore. It's about being controlled and the reality of figuring out you are just being controlled and manipulated. It explores loss of autonomy, intellectual domination, and existential uncertainty. And the thing that I was really surprised about with this film was how trapped I felt while watching it. The threat isn't physical at first, it's psychological. And for anxious people, that kind of fear can feel painfully familiar and almost as dangerous as a physical one. What is scary about Heretic is that the characters technically are safe. Well, until they're not. And that mirrors anxiety so well. Anxiety rarely screams danger, it typically whispers it instead. So, quick breakdown of this film. It's about two Mormon missionaries, and their names are Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton. They knock on the door of a man named Mr. Reed, who is played completely against type by Hugh Grant. And may I say, played perfectly. You will love despising him in this. He presents himself as an intellectually curious skeptic of sorts, who just wants to talk about faith. So he invites them in, says his wife is baking a pie. They feel totally at ease. And that is the last normal part of this film. So minor spoilers from here on out, but I don't want to ruin the ending. So I'm going to do my best to stay away from that because I really want you to see this film for yourself if you haven't already. The ending is left like deliberately ambiguous in a way because the film wants you to find your own truth in it. So the discussion ends up becoming the trap. Once they're inside, Reed begins an increasingly invasive theological interrogation. He dismantles their answers about the Book of Mormon, prophetic authority, free will, eternal salvation. He presents a belief as a psychological construct, something socially engineered and reinforced by fear, which I have to kind of agree with him right there on that. And then comes the first reveal. They can't leave. They are actually trapped in this house. The front door is locked, their phones don't work, and Mr. Reed calmly informs them that they are now part of his experiment. So, in a way, the house is a theological maze. Reed leads them into it and then into the basement And this is where the film fully shifts into the horror aspect. The basement is structured like a psychological proving ground. Two doors labeled with moral choices, rooms that represent theological paradoxes, if you will. Then comes a staged miracle demonstration. He forces them to choose between which door they would like to go through. Rooms that intentionally represent this theological paradox, a staged miracle demonstration. He forces them to choose between the doors as a part of his test of belief. So he claims he is just proving that faith is just behavioral conditioning. It's basically theater designed to show how easily humans accept whatever narrative they get, even at the cost of believing that over actual evidence. And this is the film's most disturbing sequence, not because of the gore, but because it attacks the psychological need to believe in something. So, the breaking point as the night progresses, Reed emotionally isolates these two women. He forces them to confront private doubts. He reveals that he has studied Mormonism obsessively, and he admits he has done this exact thing before. He tells them he isn't trying to kill them, he's trying to free them from their delusion. Obviously, duh. But the freedom he's offering is sadistic and ego driven. His atheism mirrors the very religious extremism he despises himself: rigid, self righteous, absolute. And then the final confrontation, the missionaries, they ultimately turn the logic back on him. They exploit his need to be right. My girls, you're so smart. Sister Barnes realizes that Reed's entire experiment depends on control. So, guess what she does? She refuses to play. Instead of debating theology, she asserts something much simpler. Belief is a choice, and their beliefs, they do not require his validation. This is when you can start to see a little bit of the power dynamic shift. In the chaos that follows, Reed is eventually overpowered, not by physical strength, but by mental. My bitches. The ending intentionally leaves room for interpretation, which I do love. Depending on how you read it, the film can be viewed as a defense of faith, a critique of organized religion, a critique of atheism and the certainty in that, a story about manipulation itself. And the film never truly tells you which interpretation is correct. Reed's obsession with destroying faith made him no different from the dogmatic religions that he despised so much. Heretic isn't arguing that religion is false. It's just not. It's exploring how belief systems, religious or atheist, can become authoritarian. How doubt can either liberate us or end up destroying us. How control is often disguised as enlightenment. The horror isn't God, it's the human need to dominate truth. This movie hit extremely close to home for me. Growing up, I was never able to question anything. I was manipulated and brainwashed into believing whatever I was told, basically. Heretic, it deals with themes of control, belief, and psychological manipulation, all things that unfortunately I've dealt with. And that can be a lot, especially if you've experienced it for yourself. This movie isn't about pushing through discomfort, it's about facing it head on, which, it's really funny because that is becoming a theme here on Hex Reel. Got to face our fears, guys. Let's meet them head on. And it's also about learning how to reclaim your own autonomy and your own beliefs. So, if this movie sounds interesting to you, please check it out. One of my favorite films of the last decade, hands down. I cried, I laughed. It hit every emotion for me. And so, if I was going to give it a score out of 10, this is hard. I'm going to have to do an 8.5. It's a great movie. 8.5 out of 10 for me. Please go check it out. I promise you won't regret it. So, until the next one, stay safe, stay curious, and I love you guys.